Welcome to the list of all the vampire war machines. First on the list is the oh-so-common corpse card, though one should not underestimate its potential. A corpse card acts as a magnet for dark magic, drawing their power from the land itself and using said power in either bolstering the combat abilities of nearby undead or to raise them back into battle. Sometimes a corpse card is hung with a great bell, the clapper of which is a fell lodestone of eldritch provenance. When necromantic magic is thick in the air, the bell tolls and ripples of dark magic emanate from the corpse card. Under the influence of this ominous knell, the dead are drawn back together and cadavers stagger to their feet. Other corpse cards are lit by braziers that burn with supernatural flames. The smoke from these bale fires contains particles of warpstone that have the horrific ability of driving enemy wizards temporarily insane. The first corpse cards came about during the year of 1111 IC, when the Chaos Moon, Morslib, showered down great chunks of warpstone meteorites upon the lands of Sylvania. The citizens of Sylvania during that time were racked with the horrors of the Black Plague, a powerful disease unleashed by the vermins of the Skaven Under Empire in an effort to weaken the Empire of Man before their inevitable surface invasions. When fragments of warpstone were scattered all across Sylvania, the bodies of these victims became imbued with large amounts of dark magic. The warpstone meteors would, in time, also affect the plague wagons that carried the thousands of dead plague victims to the charnel pits. Bodies fused together into writhing undead masses, and the drivers of the cards changed into strange, withered creatures. The infamous necromancer Frederick Van Hal formed an army of the undead from the newly arisen, using his dark magic to bind the corpse cards to his will. Infused with warpstone and driven forth by Van Hal's will, the corpse cards acted as a conduit for the necromancer's magic. When Van Hal's apprentice turned on his master and killed him, the corpse cards were no longer controlled. Without Van Hal's guiding influence, the devilish chariots dispersed to all corners of Sylvania. Though most were hunted down and put to the torch, for over 1,000 years, the remaining corpse cards have wandered along the back roads and dirt tracks of Sylvania, carrying death and misery with them like a shroud. On dark nights, they enter ramshackle villages, stirring the dead in their graves and filling the dreams of slumbering peasants with visions of rot and death. These strange constructs are highly valued by all vampires, for undead creatures near a corpse cart will be imbued with large amounts of dark magic, giving the undead the ability to fight with an almost uncommon frantic vigor and savagery. Next, the Black Coaches. The Black Coaches are, as their name suggests, Coaches that are painted jet black and driven by the servants of the undead. Driven forward by a pair of nightmares and a skiff-wielding wraith, these coaches serve as a way of transporting a vampire anywhere he wishes, protecting him from the baneful sun and plowing through any opposition that would dare to stand in its way. These morbid carriages are omens of disaster and death. They are horrific, unholy things, neither wholly real nor immaterial. A black coach is a herald of famine, war, and murder, the sight of which can drive a sane man to suicide and cause families to fall upon themselves. They serve as the principal transport for vampires to cross large tracts of land without having to face the baneful rays of the sun. They also serve to transport the remains of vampires into places of slaughter, for a vampire can never truly die, and can still be resurrected should all his remains be placed in a casket and sent to places saturated with death magic. By creating a black coach, the vampire's retainers can transport their master's rejuvenating form to places of slaughter. This allows the vampire to revivify himself, drinking in the coalescing energies that swirl around the crucible of war. Each black coach is a magnet for such baleful forces. As it drives onward, it soaks the energies of the battlefield, shimmering with sorcerer's power until it is all but unstoppable. Driven on by the undying will of the vampire crouched within it, the black coach crushes or skiffs down the ranks of the enemy that are foolish enough to stand in its way. You have seen the black coach? You are lucky then. Some say the coach is driven by demons. I have heard it passes by here on Geheimnisnacht every year. Some say it carries children from Alterdorf who are sacrificed at the Dark Stone Ring, from a Reichwald innkeeper during the night of Geheimnisnacht Eve. Next, the frankly ridiculously luxurious Coven Thrones. The Coven Thrones are large, exquisitely luxurious thrones that bear a coven of vampires across the battlefield, borne aloft by the departed spirits of those slain by the vampire. Compensating for a cursed existence with grandeur and luxury is a common theme amongst the vampire elite. A true lord or lady of undeath refuses to churn through the mud of a battlefield like a common peasant, or be content with the dubious dignity of sitting astride a grave beast. Instead, the monarchs of the night are often borne to war on glided palanquins known as the Coven Thrones. These bone frame constructs are held aloft by the departed spirits of those who have fallen in love with their owners and got nothing in return but a violent death. Mortal men shiver in awe-struck belief at the exotic beauty of the handmaidens lounging upon these Coven Thrones, hypnotized by a beguiling glance, a kiss upon the air, or a subtle finger beckoning them into eternal servitude. The legend of the vampires originates in the desert realm of Lahmia, and it is the Lahmians who are famed above all for their use of Coven Thrones. Those who hail from that land consider themselves the first amongst the aristocracy of the night, for their darkling city, was the first ever to bear the curse of vampirism. All Lahmians descended from Neferata, the Queen of Mysteries, who is said to despise men with a passion. Consequently, very few Lahmians are male. Instead, the most enchantingly beautiful maidens are chosen from amongst the noble families of Bretonnia and the Empire and granted the blood kiss. They then gain control of the humans around them with cunning and intrigue, for Lahmians take an active interest in human affairs. No one knows how many eccentric noblewomen, widows, and high-born ladies are, in truth, members of the undead. The Lahmians are hedonistic, self-indulgent creatures that take great pains to present themselves in splendor and majesty at all times. Thus, the Coven Thrones that carry the Lahmian sisterhood are bedecked with rare artifacts and strewn with silk-embroidered cushions and other finery. Over the centuries, the Lahmians have become skilled in the arts of foretelling and prescience in order to stay one step ahead of the agents who pursue them. The Coven Thrones bear great enchanted bowls full of fresh virgin's blood, within which the vampires' handmaidens can scry the future. What the Lahmians' final purpose is, however, none can fathom. Despite their luxury, these ostentatious palanquins are potent weapons upon the battlefield. The vampires themselves move so swiftly as to be virtually invisible to the eye, but their true strength lies in their unity. A coven of vampires fighting as one is as formidable a prospect as any dragon or demon lord. And at last, the most evil and powerful vampire war machine they have to offer, the Mortis Engine. The Mortis Engine is a horrific magical artifact that irradiates strongly with dark magic and is kept afloat by a horde of vengeful spirits. Within the Mortis Engine are powerful relics that are saturated with strong amounts of dark magic, such as the remains of powerful necromancers and liege lords of ancient times. Mortis engines are almost always watched over by deathless attendants known as corpse masters, trusted servants of the vampire counts, whom have proven immune to the dire energies that emanate from the relics within. When the corpse master removes the locks and opens the lead-lined reliquary, the deadly artifact within can be held aloft, leeching enemies' life energy away and invigorating any nearby undead creatures. The longer a battle rages, the more energies the relic absorbs, and the more powerful it becomes. Mortis engines can typically be found where the fighting is thickest, ominously drifting into bloody battle lines. Such positions simultaneously fuel the engine with the energies of the dying and allow the engine to support undead forces where the fighting is thickest. However, so redolent with dark magic are these artifacts that opening the reliquary is not without risk, for its power can sometimes tear apart the engine itself. Indeed, if such a dread relic is ever shattered upon the field of battle, The subsequent release of pure evil has been known to smite everything in the vicinity, living or undead, in an explosive wave of dark magic. Some reliquaries also carry blasphemous tomes to battle, or scrolls of parchment rumored to have been penned by Nagash himself. Often, the winds of magic become nigh uncontrollable when such a fell tome is near. Heavy with evil magics, these tomes are painstakingly illuminated with such effort that often their creators' souls themselves are inked upon the parchments of human skin. In battle, these books can be a boon to the twisted practitioners of necromancy, but also the bane of reckless and inexperienced spellcasters that would dare to risk relying upon such diabolical relics. Bolstering the fighting spirit of all those around it, and blasting enemy ranks with savage, dark energy, the Mortis Engines. Join me next time for Every Vampire Lore.